Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up your own server on Linode. So Linode is just another company that provides infrastructure and hosting and servers that you can use. And so if you look on their solutions here, you see they have a variety of services, including managed hosting. Looks like there's machine learning services. And if you wanted to run your own startup or software as a service app that you wanted to build, you could host it on Linode. And so in our situation, we do things like run scripts on a schedule, like using cron jobs or a scheduling module. Sometimes we'll run a WebSocket bot that we want to monitor price data at all times, or sometimes you have a web application that you want to run because you're running this application worldwide and you can't just be running it on your desktop, right? Because you're just going to shut that down or move around somewhere, and you can ensure your uptime by putting it on a server like Linode. So in this tutorial, we're going to continue on what we did in the last video. So we're going to take our Python scripts that look at Ethereum price data and Yahoo Finance stock data, and we're going to use the Pandas TA library as usual, but this time we're going to code in some conditions so we can check certain thresholds for one of our indicators, and then we're going to have that trigger an alert. So when a certain condition, such as the ADX being over 25, gets triggered, when it detects that, we want to receive a notification in our Discord channel. So I have this Discord channel set up right here, and you can see it's posting alerts to this Discord server, and I can, pretend we have a chat room and we're all in there, then we can get notified of certain conditions, and we can set this up to do a variety of things. So we can use technical indicator alerts. We could also set it up where we could have like slash commands, so people in the chat room could slash and request a quote or something like that and have it hit, a web application that we have running on Linode. There's a lot of cool things we can probably do with this. So I thought I'd start talking about server deployment a little more, since I haven't discussed that quite enough yet. And just so you know, this isn't sponsored or anything. I'm going to be talking about Linode a lot, but that's just because I have experience using that in the past. And I've been getting a lot of these brand deal type of offers, and I'm not going to recommend anything I haven't used personally and don't like personally. So you can see, even though I spun up this Linode server for this video, I've used this service a very long time. So for proof of that, I'm going over this other window. You see I have a server that was created in 2009. So I've had this thing running for 12 years now. So this thing has been running forever. I have critical projects running on this, and I've hosted client sites and web apps on this thing for over a decade now. So have a lot of faith in the service and haven't really had to worry about this web application that's running on here in a long time. I know a lot of people use DigitalOcean, and I do host some applications on DigitalOcean, but for some reason my uptime has been much better. You'll notice I have a website up and it's actually went down a couple times randomly. For some reason that's happened to me more often with DigitalOcean than it did on Linode. Maybe other people's mileage may vary, but Linode has been working the best for me. So even though I'm giving all these positive comments on Linode and it's not a sponsored video, I will leave a referral link down below in case you want to sign up. It looks like they give you $100 60-day credit. So yeah, sign up with this link and you get some free credit, so you can actually try everything I'm doing out for free here. And it looks like in one of my previous videos I did this, and so I had some referrals here. I've earned $0 from this. And it looks like people have just signed up and tried it out and canceled so far, but this is available, and if you want to just follow along and try this out. So before we put this on a server, let's go ahead and get this all working locally first, and I'm going to push this code to GitHub, and then we can just pull down that code to our server using the git command line. So in the last video, I created this ta.py here, so I'll leave that there, and I'll just create a new script called alert.py. And I'll paste this code here just so that we have a basis to start from. And so previously we imported CCXT and YFinance and Pandas TA and Pandas. And we got some price data from Binance, and we used Ethereum on the 5-minute time frame. And then we got this data frame of price data, which is great. That's a good start. And then we also have this ADX indicator and the MACD running here, and we concatenated that all together. So I'm going to simplify this a little bit and reduce the number of lines here. And I'll remove these lines and just print out the data frame, make sure this all still works. So I'll run this. And you see we have our big data frame with our price data and our indicator calculations here. And so what we want to do next is we want to be monitoring all of this data, right? But all we really care about is the last row here. So how do we check the last row? Well, we can do df.iloc -1 like that, and I can just store that in a variable called last row, and let's just print the last row and see what that looks like. So I'll do last row, okay? And so we're continuously going to be checking. We're going to run this script over and over again, continuously checking for new price data. Technically, you can do this in a WebSocket, but since we're doing the 5-minute time frame, there's no reason to keep a WebSocket open. We can just ask for it every 5 minutes, and that's fine. I'm getting the price data, and you can see I printed the last row. And so you can see our ADX value is 13 right now, which means Ethereum is probably trading sideways, or there's not much of a trend going on right now. And so let's go ahead and look at where we left off last time. We were looking at the Ethereum price data yesterday evening at like 7:15 p.m. And we saw Ethereum was kind of trading in a range, and then it started a downtrend, and we detected that. So if I go over here, so this is the present, and then if we go over here to 7:15, yeah, 19:15 right there. Yeah, so you remember we looked at this in the last video, and then I looked, and then there was the downward trend here, and then you see where the ADX right here in red, right here that I'm circling, went above 25, and we said, oh, now it's detecting this a strong downtrend is starting, right? But we also looked at RSI indicator, right, and showed that it was oversold, which is right there. And we're like, oh, is it going to bounce? And sure, there was this little bounce here, but pretty weak one, right? But at the oversold level, it bounced some, right? And then the downtrend continued. So you see another downtrend continue, and you see the ADX value continues to rise. So with this downtrend plus this downtrend, you know, we got a pretty strong downtrend. So the ADX was up here at 45, it looks like, by the time this occurred, okay? So fast forward to the present, right? We noticed the ADX was low according to our calculation. We said it was like 13, and sure enough, there it is. So it's in red right there, and you see that Ethereum is in this narrow range once again, but at about 2150. And so what we want to program in our logic is just to look at the latest bar, look at the latest ADX calculation. If it crosses above 25, we'll just say, oh, a strong trend. There's a strong trend. We can also check these directional indicators down here and say whether that trend is an uptrend or downtrend. And we can also alert that it's just not trending at all, so there's no strong trend. So in this case, we'll just alert that there's no strong trend, okay? So let's try to get this detection working here. And so I'm going to go back to my script editor here, and I have the last row, and we also have the name of the columns, which is ADX14. And so now that we have the last row, we can just look and see if the last row's ADX14 is greater than 25. We can just have some message that we're going to post to our chat and just say, we'll use an F string, and we'll say the ADX is, and then we'll put some variable in here, and we'll say it's last row ADX14. So in our message, we'll say the exact ADX value, and let's just print the message here. And then we'll also say if last row ADX14 is, and we'll do greater than or equal to, and then we'll say less than 25. We'll say message equals F string, same thing technically, but we'll put the word strong trend here. So we'll say strong trend, and then we'll say no trend, right? And so that'll be our two messages. So print this message out, and we'll run this again, and we should see this message that there's no trend right now. So I run this, and you see this nice little string message here saying there's no trend. ADX is 13.27, and long decimal here. Let's go ahead and round this a little bit. So in an F string, what we can do, we can actually do colon dot 2F to round to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to do a colon dot 2F just like that. Run it again, and you'll see the ADX is 13.28. So this rounds it for us. Okay, so we have this no trend right here, and then let's go ahead and detect whether it's an uptrend or a downtrend. So we'll just say if the last row, we'll use those directional values, right? So we have this DMP14, and so we'll say if last row DMP14 if it's a strong trend and DMP14 is greater than last row DMP or DMN14, we'll just say, what will our message be? Strong uptrend, right? So the positive is above the negative. We'll say it's a strong uptrend. So we don't need this message here. So that'll be our strong uptrend message. And then we'll say if last row DMN14 is less than last row DMP14. Now, if the negative is greater than the positive, we'll call that a strong downtrend, right? Okay. And so we'll do that. And let me format that properly. Okay. Run it again. And that should be fine. And there's still no trend. Okay. But that does seem to be working pretty well. Okay, and so now what we want to do is see how to have this message. Now that we have this message, let's see how we can post it to the Discord channel here, right? And let me stop the server that I already have running real quick. So I'm going to shut this thing down. So I'm going to go to my Linode that I had running. And so I'm going to go to my Linodes. You have this nice console here. And I'm going to turn this one off. Actually, I'm just going to delete this one altogether. So I'll do a delete Linode. Okay. So now we have no server running. It's all shut down. So if you want to follow along, you can start off. You can use the referral link, sign up for Linode, try it out for free. And then I'm going to just create a Linode. And I'm just going to choose Debian Linux, so Debian 10. And I'll show you the commands that you run if you're not familiar with Debian Linux. And so we can learn a little bit about Linux here. And I'm going to select a region to spin up this Linode in. So I'm going to pick Fremont, California. I'm in California. And I'm just going to pick the cheapest one here, and I'm not really going to run this for very long. So if you don't actually run it for the full month, I mean, you get free credits now, I think, but if you continue on and you don't run it for the full month or shut it down, it's actually less than a penny an hour if you just want to try this out for a little bit. Okay, so there's that. And then I just need to give myself a root password. So I'll have a root account here. And so I'll set a password there. And then what else do we need? That's all we need, right? You can add SSH keys if you want. I'm just going to SSH in and type in a password. So I'm going to do a create Linode. And it should just magically spin that thing up. And it gives me this IP address here. So I should be able to SSH in. And so it says provisioning here. And then it should be up in a few minutes here. And so what I can do is when this is up, I can SSH into the box. I'm on OS X right now, so I can just type SSH, and then you see I have root at some IP address, so I'll just SSH in, right? This thing is not up yet, right, so it's not responding, and it says it's running now, so let me try again. Okay, so now it's up. I'm going to say yes here, and I'll type in that password that I set on the console. There you go. I'm in. I'm root on this Linux server running from scratch, and my server is up right here, and I can monitor it. After a while, it'll start collecting this data about that server. Now, if you're on Windows, obviously you would use, someone mentioned this in the comments on my previous server video. There is a client called Putty Ssh for Windows, so you can use this graphical application to do that. But someone, I think it was Chuck Tilley, said I think Windows 10 or something might have this SSH, some type of SSH client out of the box. So you can use whatever Windows 10 provides for SSH. Yeah, so you can enable some built-in SSH if you want to use it on Windows. All right, I got my server running here, but I'm not quite ready to deploy my code yet. I just wanted to stop the other server and create a new one. And now I want to look up Discord webhooks and see how they work and see if locally I can have my code post a message to my Discord server. And so you see there's this introduction to webhooks here, and it'll walk you through how you create a webhook. So you just need to go to your Discord server and go to integrations, and you can create a webhook right there. So if I go to my Discord server that I've set up here, I can click, let's see. Yeah, let me click here, integrations. Yeah, so there's an integrations, and you see I set up one to practice this called crypto webhooks. So I'm going to delete that one and create a new one. So I'm going to create a new webhook, and let's do that. And I'm going to call it crypto alerts, right? And I'll have it run in channel general. and save the changes. And I'm gonna copy that URL. So I copied that to my clipboard, and I'm gonna just paste this in this file. So I'm gonna say my webhook URL, I'll just create a variable like that, and that'll be good. And so how do I use this webhook URL? What I'm going to do is take the Python request library to send an HTTP request to this web address, and I'm going to send it some JSON data that represents my chat message. So I can go to the Discord webhooks chat message. So there's documentation in the developer portal here, and you can do a lot of cool stuff with this. Like we could actually post a chart to the channel if we want. You can post images and GIFs, and it provides a lot of cool integrations, and we can format it especially. And so we can figure out how to send a message to our Discord channel by going to the Discord webhook documentation, and then I can search this page for, I think it's execute webhook. And if you look here, it allows you to send a special message, and you can see we can provide like an avatar URL, we can attach files, we can do embeds, we can do a lot of different things. We can mention a particular user if we want to have our bot mention and get other people's attention, but we're gonna just do a basic message with a username and content. So we just need to post to our webhook address, username and content. And so let's jump back to the code here and scroll back to the top. I'm going to import requests. And if you didn't install all these packages in the last video, you just want to do pip3 install request. You can install the request library. I already have all these installed, so you can install pandas, pandas TA. And if you've gotten this far, you've probably already done this. But just in case you haven't installed requests, you just pip install it just like that, just like any other Python package. And so now I'm just going to do request.post. And so let me run this again real quick, make sure it's still going. Okay, and you see there's still no trend. And so I'm going to, instead of just printing the message, I'm going to do request.post, and then I'm going to post to a URL, and I'm going to post to a URL. So I'm going to post to our webhook URL. So that's the first parameter here. So I'm going to do webhook URL, and I have to do that slowly, RL. I have trouble saying R and L. I don't know, because I'm part Asian or something. Yeah, and my name is Larry, which is kind of funny because I have two R's and an L. So I just need to post to my URL, and then JSON equals, right? JSON equals, and then we're going to post a JSON message. And so if we just prepare this as a dictionary, so I'm going to say payload equals a dictionary here, and I'm going to do a username, and so you can name this person or this bot that's posting the message, and I'll just call this alert bot and just have content of message. Okay, and I'll say JSON equals payload. Okay, so I should be able to post that message to my Discord channel, and so it should say no trend, the ADX is. So I'm going to run this one more time. It says no trend, the ADX is, and if I go check my Discord channel, like magic here, you see how it says alert bot, no trend, the ADX is 18.9. So just like that, with a few lines of code, we successfully are able to notify on technical indicators to a Discord server. And ideally, the price would change to a strong trend briefly so that we could test this other part out, but I'm just going to trust this is fine. Very simple message here. So I'm just going to copy this up here. So if the last row of ADX is greater than 25, I'll just post our strong uptrend or downtrend message, and also post to my webhook URL and handle it right there. So that looks good, right? So we're posting the message in multiple scenarios, and I'll just run it one more time. Okay, still 18.9, and it posted another message. So this is running locally. Let's see if we can get this running on our Linode. So I'm going to put this code on GitHub if you want to check it out, and we can pull this code down to our server. All right, so I just pushed this code to this Hacking the Markets GitHub. So I'll post the link to the tutorial so you can see I just put that up a few minutes ago. And we just wrote these couple of scripts. So I wrote this alert script right here. And what we're going to do is pull this down to our Linode server that we just set up. So I'm going to go to my terminal, and you can see I'm on this Linode server here, but I haven't done anything yet. This is a fresh server. There's absolutely nothing installed. It's a fresh, clean install. And so we need to get this set up out of the box. And so to get started, we need to update our packages. So let's see if we have Python 3 installed. We do have Python 3 installed, so I'll quit that. Let's see if we have pip3, because we're going to need to install our dependencies. Let's see if we have Git. We don't have Git. So how do we get these on our Linode server? So I'm SSH'd into this, and the first command I can run is apt-get update. And that's just going to update my operating system and various packages that may be out of date. So that's the first thing you want to do to make sure you're up to date. And so we don't have pip3, but to install things on a Debian Linux, we just do apt-get install. So I'm doing apt-get install, and let's see if I can install pip. Or is it pip3? Python pip3 dash pip3. And obviously you could look that up as well. And let's see, install Python pip3 Linux, what that is. Python 3 pip, right? And I almost got it right. So installing Python 3 pip, I'm going to type Y for yes, and it's going to install pip. And I'm going to let this go. And then how do we install Git? So apt-get install Git, and I think it's yeah, it's just apt-get install Git, and looks like that's done installing now. And now I'll type apt-get install Git so that we have the Git command line. I'm going to say yes here. And now that's done running. And so now I can type pip3, and you can see that works. And now I can type Git, and you can see that works. So now let's see if we can clone this repository. So I'm going to go back to this pandas TA tutorial, and you see we have this Git address here. So I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. I'll do git clone that address, and let's see if we can pull it down. Okay, so it worked, and I'm going to type ls and list, and we have a directory called pandas TA tutorial. I'm going to cd into that directory, and look at that, we have our ta.py and we have our alert.py. And so let's see if I just run that Python 3 ta.py, Python 3 alert.py. You see I have all these errors because I don't have these packages installed on this server, and that's why I have pip. And so I can just type, since I have my requirements text here, right, that has the names of all my packages, I just type pip3 install-r requirements text, and it will install every package that's listed in my requirements text. And so you see it's going to install all those packages. So now that all my dependencies have finished installing, I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to do Python 3 ta.py just to make sure the script we had in the first video runs. And you see it runs. Make sure you're running Python 3. And I'm going to do Python 3 alert.py. Run that. Okay, it says ADX is 22.49. So let's check our Discord channel. And sure enough, it just posted that message to our Discord. So now we have a Linode server running. It's running our code that we checked out from Git and pulled down to the server. And we can run that code. We've installed all our Python packages and dependencies, and it's successfully posting over to our Discord channel. And so the final thing we need to do here to get this rolling is to have this script continuously running and checking for new price data. And so to do this, I'm going to just use a cron job. If you watch the full stack tutorial, I set up a cron job before, or the trader options snapshot database I created, I also used cron for that. And so we just need to type cron tab -e here, right? So let me zoom in a little bit. Cron tab -e. Okay, and it's going to ask us to choose an editor. Now, I'm very familiar with Vim, so I can use it to edit basic files, but the easiest is to use Nano here because it functions a little bit more like text editors you might be used to. Vim has all these different shortcuts and key bindings that you may or may not be familiar with. So I'm going to choose one for this tutorial, and this is Nano. And so this is going to let me edit my cron tab file. Okay, so here's my cron tab file. And down here below all of this commented out instructions, I just need to define a schedule when to run this. And previously I have demonstrated crontab Guru. There's a site called crontab Guru that shows you how to run a job. So this is a graphical interface, in case you don't know the cron syntax, that lets you experiment with this. So for instance, if I type 544, that means at the 4:05 on day of month 4, And so this syntax is a little weird if you're unfamiliar. So you can say at minute 5, and you can do what we're going to do. We'll just do */5, so every 5 minutes. And just so that we don't have to wait 5 minutes, I'm going to have it run every 2 minutes, okay? So every 2 minutes, we're going to check our price data and run our script. So this is the syntax we need. So I just copy this syntax to my cron tab here, but just so you understand it more, there's these different positions in our cron tab. So this defines the minute, hour, day of the month, and then day of the week, right? And so this website is all about documenting this syntax. So if I type */3 here, it means at every second minute past every third hour. And so it's very flexible in terms of how you can schedule any program to run using this syntax, right? And so if I say this, right, at every second minute past every third hour on day of month 5, okay? So any type of schedule you can think of, you can define it with this syntax here. So we've defined the schedule, but what are we running on the schedule? We want to run Python 3, so we can do user bin Python 3, or you can do which Python. So user bin Python 3 I'll use here, and then we'll just type the path to our script, and I just dump this in the root directory, right? Oh no, it's pandas TA tutorial, and then it's going to be /alert.py, right? So if I do Control X, it'll ask me to save. I'll hit yes. And that, I believe, will be good enough, right? So if I go back to my cron tab with cron tab -E, you'll see it's set up to run that. And let me test this command real quick, standalone, to make sure it works. User bin Python 3 alert.py. See, it runs. It says no trend, ADX is 23.05. Okay, so that just ran. So it looks like the cron job already ran because 8:34 hit, which is every 2 minutes, right? And then it ran once, and then I ran it manually to test it. And so now I see the alert twice. So I think it's working. But one other thing we want to do is we want to see if there could be some errors or connection errors or things that go wrong. So we want to save the output of this script when it runs. Like every time it runs, we can log the output to a file. So if you look up cron tab, redirect output to file, and just copy how to do that. And if you look at this answer for here, someone's asking that. And if you scroll down, you'll see all you need to do is do this output here with these double arrows, and then you can specify a path to an output file, right? So I'll go back to my cron tab real quick. So I'll do cron tab -E, and I'm going to go down to the bottom here. And let's just say we want to dump a file in our root directory. Usually you set up user accounts and use var log or some specific directory where you put your logs. I'm not worrying about that too much right now. I'm just demonstrating how to do this. So alert.py, I'm going to output this output to a file, and I'm going to just dump it to the root directory, and then I'm going to call it alert.log. Okay, and then this is the syntax for outputting it to the file. Okay, so I'm going to save that one more time and let it run. And let me see. So I'm in pandas TA tutorial. I think the script just ran right before I saved it there. So if I check my Discord, you'll see the ADX. Yeah, it did run at 8:36 right before I saved that file, and the ADX is 23.45. So you can tell this is continuously running right now every couple of minutes. And if I go back, you can see if I type pwd, there's no log file in here yet. So at 8:38 p.m. we should see on the next run through, we should see a log file appear. So I'll check out on that in a moment. So right now, let's go ahead and look over at our Discord, right? So that's our Discord. And you'll notice we might want to format this a little bit better. Maybe we want to let's add these directional indicators right here so that we can tell ourselves a little bit more information about the trend. So I'm going to go back. And I can either go back into GitHub and edit this, that's what I should do, or I can just edit this ta.py. So I can do nano, I'll edit alert.py, right? And I can go in here and edit this, or I can go on my local machine, which is probably better practice, edit it and push it to Git, and then pull that back down. And so we can go in here and just add our other values. So I'm going to do plus di, and then I'll just put last row, DMP 14, just like that, DMP 14, and then last row, DMN 14. Okay, and I should be able to do that. And yeah, now that I'm not in my Visual Studio Code, I'm more likely to make some mistakes, and it's not all nice. I don't have this set up with highlighting, so I'll do -DI right there. And I'll commit this to GitHub with all this in there, just so you can copy it from there. Okay, so I'm going to add that here, and I'm going to add that there. And yeah, I'll put this in the node trend as well. Okay, and I'm going to save that. Okay, and it's 8:39 now, so I'm going to have to wait for it to run again. But if I go back to my root directory, you can see now my alert.log is there. So if I open up my alert log, so I can do cat alert log if I just want to type it out. And you can see now in my log file, I'm just logging all the output of my script. So I can see the data frame and what it looked like and the messages. And so if there was an error in my code, that would appear in this alert log. And so I'm going to let that code run one more time to see if it runs successfully. So you see you have my 2345. Okay, there you go. You see my code just ran again with the new code, right? And so you see the ADX is 24.21, and that's my directional indicators right there. And I could also round those as well. So I could go back into my pandas TA tutorial, go back into my alert.py. And then the other kind of cool thing you can do in these Discord webhooks, you can format the messages. So you can look and you can use Markdown, you can bold things, you can italicize things, you can make different colors. And so it's cool to explore some of that. And so what I'll do here is just to bold something. I think I can put like a star around it. And so let's add one more thing. So I'm going to do a star here around this strong uptrend and downtrend, just to give it a little more formatting. And then around this no trend here. Okay. All right. And so I'll write that out, and let's see if that will run again. So let's look at our log file first. And then if I look in my alert log here, you can see everything is going according to plan. And so I have this complete log of every instance where my program ran, and then I'm successfully getting these alerts over here. Okay. And so I'm going to let this run one more time and see if I get my nice bolded messages. So let's kind of kick back and watch our ADX a little bit more. And it looks like it's starting to creep up. And so the ADX is probably going to get above 25 soon. And so a trend might be starting to develop. We'll check on the actual price chart in a moment, but let's see what happens with the next instance of the ADX. And let's see if we get that bold message. Yeah, so you see there's our bold message there, and you see the ADX is 2469, right? And then if I look at my Ethereum chart now, I'm going to go look back at Ethereum. You see how my ADX is going up right here. So it's at about 24 now, right? And you can see it was consolidating. Ethereum was consolidating, right? It's in this range. And you can see it's just now with that red candle, it's starting to develop a downtrend, but not really much of a downtrend yet. But we'll see if this downtrend accelerates in a moment. And then when this ADX crosses 25, we should get this notification in our alert, and it'll switch from no trend to a strong downtrend, right? So I let this run a little bit longer. One thing I realized is that I'm running this every 2 minutes, and I'm getting 5-minute data. So I'm getting some duplication here because there's not really a new 5-minute bar every 2 minutes, right? And so we can change up the timing on this. And so I let it run a little longer, and it looks like now I hit that strong downtrend alert because the ADX went above 25. And if I look back at my Ethereum chart here, you can see the ADX here has indeed went above 25. So, you know, it's not some huge downtrend or anything like that, but it's enough to trigger this alert. And so maybe you want to act on that. So this is just an alert to your chat channel. If you want to put in the logic to do some buys and sells and combine this with other things, feel free to do that. So yeah, I think that's pretty good for now. We learned a lot in this video. We set up a Linode server. We installed some of the packages from scratch, including setting up Git, Python's pip package. We installed our dependencies. We pulled down our code to the Linode server. We wrote some code to detect whenever an indicator changed above a certain threshold, and we had it notify a Discord chat channel of strong uptrends and downtrends based on that data. And we formatted these nice messages here, and we verified that those are correctly matching what we see here on TradingView. So thanks a lot for watching this video. Stay tuned for the next one. We'll expand on this library a little bit more, and I'm going to build a user interface for that for those of you that are interested in building a web application. So thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.